Okay, welcome back. Another question, very, very common when we talk about SD-WAN on the part of our customers. And we always talk about MPLS circuits in almost all of these questions here, so we're kind of going to get to this really key one here that comes up a lot. Can I replace my MPLS circuit with SD-WAN?
It's one of my favorite questions because it doesn't have just one answer, which is sure, no problem. And I always start from the perspective of what are the applications that are running across your network, because that's going to dictate everything. What are the applications? What's the criticality of them? And what kind of network are they looking for? And the best example I can use is if you've got a data center in Dubai and you've got 10,000 calls coming in at any one particular time, and your core business is being a call center, would you move everything over to the internet in that scenario? And I probably wouldn't. But I probably, in that scenario, have 1, 2, maybe 3 different MPLS providers or circuits from different carriers. So in that sense, we really want to look at what applications are trying to run across it. And then, once you can take a look at your applications, then you can take a look at what the availability of the circuits are that you have in that particular region. So, as another example, MPLS in Europe is really cheap. It's about the same cost as internet. So if I'm looking to replace MPLS, am I doing so because I'm looking to get the cost savings, or am I trying to reduce the complexity? That's another thing you want to throw in there as well.
Yep.
But the big thing are, what are the applications and where are they being serviced from? So if we take the call center and you put it aside and you say you're just an average business and you've adopted the strategy where you're going to move all of your applications to the cloud, you're going to consume everything as a software as a service, MPLS probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense for you long term. So in that sense, right, getting rid of your MPLS may make a lot of sense. What I have told my customers to do is to start off with this scenario where you're looking at your SD-WAN device. At most branches, you're going to have an internet connection and an MPLS connection. So simply by just taking your internet connection and say your 3 megabit MPLS connection and bonding those together to create one big virtual pipe that's 103 megabits, you're going to start to see the benefits of SD-WAN immediately without making any changes to the underlay. What we have seen is that SD-WAN, specifically VeloCloud SD-WAN, works so good that customers become very comfortable with getting that second internet connection here, adding another 100 megabits here, and getting rid of the MPLS. It doesn't happen for everybody, but it happens more often than not.
Yeah, and that's what I'm so intrigued about, our SD-WAN story that we can tell here is, we don't force any of our customers to jump off the cliff, right? It's a very safe transition plan that they can go off and embrace, all within the guise of a single solution. Where to the point we walked out is like, look at don't shut off anything,
Yep.
Bond them. Let's get this thing going. Measure the performance. Let's look at it. Go add the other circuit. Move traffic over, and then you're there. I mean, so many times a lot of the benefits that we have in the IT industry and so forth is like, oh, you got to go greenfield, or you got to rip out all this stuff and so forth. And this is one of the few technologies really where we get that ability to migrate out of a brownfield environment into something fundamentally new with very, very low risk.
Yeah, and as a quick example, when we were first getting started, the company I worked for before, we were getting started with our pilots, and we adopted this very conservative approach where we were going to leverage the MPLS, leverage the internet, and didn't want to change any of that because we wanted to make sure that the voice call stayed up and running, which was so critical. And what we found after we went back a few weeks into it is that we were barely touching the MPLS at all, and most of the traffic was going over the internet. Those functions that we had built into the VeloCloud SD-WAN solution, the DMPO, made traffic look so good that we were continuing to use the internet. And they were like, I'm not going to purchase MPLS anymore because, number one, I'm not using it, and B, I can get more bandwidth for less cost. So they ended up adopting the strategy where they got rid of MPLS. But it could be different per location. It could be different per application. That's just one example.
To your point, the economics around the world are fundamentally different, and so do your math, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
On these decisions. So, anyways, I think it's a great overview in terms of when you should and what we can enable from an SD-WAN perspective of allowing you to make that transition at some point in time if you choose to do so under the right circumstances. So, thanks for joining today.